If you really want to understand the history of the development, creation, and use of atomic bombs in World War II, you can buy my book, The Atom as a Weapon. It's for sale at the We Clap store and also on Amazon. But if you want your copy signed by me, send an email to saladeguerra.com with your zip code so I can calculate the shipping. If you've ever been to the Ardennes region in Belgium, if you've gone there as a tourist or just passed through while traveling from one place to another, you've probably already seen this tank right here. This tank here is the famous Manet Panther, or the Panther that's right in front of the Manet Historical Museum in Belgium. This Panther is now going to a workshop to be restored. Now let's understand how this Panther got there. Well, on December 16, 1944, the German army launched what would be its last offensive on the Western Front, Operation Wartenhain, or Watch on the Rhine, known to us here as the Battle of the Ardennes, right? Or the Battle of the Bulge, as the Americans call it. Very well. Two large armored formations made up the steel fist of this attack. The 5th Panzer Army and the 6th SS Panzer Army. 5th Panzer Army under General Hasso von Manteuffel in the southern part of the front line, and the 6th SS Panzer Army under SS Oberstgruppenführer Sepp Dietrich, operating in the north. It was expected that Dietrich's 6th Panzer Army would make the main breakthrough, right, to advance more vigorously up to the Meuse River here. Look, with the objective of cutting across the Meuse River here at Namur. And what was the 5th Panzer Army supposed to do? It was supposed to provide cover for the southern flank here against the American forces that were in this northeastern area of France, here in the Sedan region. But what really happened? The 6th Panzer Army encountered very determined American resistance right at the starting line of the attack, while Hasso von Manteuffel managed to advance much more easily. Here in the southern area around Bastogne, as you already know from Band of Brothers. Very well, but the pressure from Dietrich at this point here, from this city called St. Vith, finally forced the evacuation of this city at the end of December 1944. And once St. Vith fell, finally the advance of the 6th Panzer Army somehow managed to move forward. Not the 6th Panzer Army as a whole, but only the 2nd SS Panzer Division, the famous Das Reich. As you can see here, Das Reich passed through Losheim, here north of St. Vith, between St. Vith and Malmedy, and finally managed to push toward Rotona. Here, look, on December 31st, the last day of the year, this dotted line that you see here, look, is passing through the city of Manet right here, where you can see right here in the area marked by the arrow, okay? Now, moving on to our Google Maps here, look, in the Manet region, like I told you, between St. Vith and Malmedy, here in the Manet region, there's a suburb called Graminal. And here in Graminal is where this single Panther, Panther AUSFG, the only Panther from Das Reich, managed to break through the American lines here in the city and get into the American rear. This Panther managed to destroy 2 American tanks, okay? It probably destroyed 2 Sherman tanks. And then shortly after that, it was taken out. Look at it here in front of the museum. It was taken out by a direct attack from an M36 Jackson, right? The American tank destroyer hit it directly, and then it was abandoned by its crew, remaining in this place you're seeing here, okay? At the end of the war, the municipality of Manet and Graminal decided to keep the Panther tank there, not send it to the scrapyard. And in the following decades, it became a kind of monument for the city. It was kept outdoors, as you can see here, pretty degraded, and its muzzle brake was even stolen at some point in the tank's past. In the 1990s, it received this camouflage here, similar to its original camouflage, including the number here, as if it were the tank from the 4th Company of Das Reich. But actually, we know today that this tank here was from the second company of Das Reich. It was number 214. So, second company, first platoon, fourth tank of the first platoon of Das Reich. So, what happened in the last few years? The municipality of Manet decided to launch a crowdfunding campaign, a fundraiser, to be able to restore this Panther, right? And in fact, they had a museum project here. Look at this, another renovation of the Manet Museum. And to put this Panther under a shelter so it wouldn't suffer anymore from rain, snow, or sun. And once restored, it would be on display to the public under a shelter. But after a long time, a really long time, this here is actually its original state. The Panther stayed there in 1944. I forgot to show you. After being stationary for a long time, finally, this happened here. Yesterday, the Panther was removed from its resting place to go to a restoration workshop. Look at how it was lifted there, even by its original lifting points, and placed on this trailer to be taken for restoration. Many people were excited. Enthusiasts were present. As you can see here, the work of removing this tank from its place for the first time in decades, almost 80 years in that same spot. So, what was revealed? What was revealed to us? What do we know about this action here? Why was this tank removed? Since, as you probably noticed, the crowdfunding stopped. Unfortunately, our crowdfunding was halted. Unfortunately, our campaign was halted. So, there's no need to save the Gremino Panther anymore. So, what happened? Do you know what happened? It wasn't revealed, but I'm going to give my 2 cents on this story. An investor, a private individual, decided to fund the entire restoration, the whole cost. He decided to cover the entire cost of the Panther's restoration, from its removal to taking it to the workshop. It will take approximately 18 months. The restoration is to bring this Panther back to a presentable state. It won't be restored to working condition, okay? I'm clarifying that for you now. But there's an interesting reason for that. It will return to the city of Manet, where it will be placed there, in that dome, protected from the elements. But it's fully funded by an individual who only wants one thing in return. You know what? The engine and the gearbox, the transmission, the engine and the transmission that this Panther here still has. The engine and the transmission are extremely rare parts nowadays, right? And for those who work with this type of vehicle and are restoring this type of vehicle, these parts are very, very valuable. Even to make replicas of these parts, you need original parts. So I imagine that there is a very small group of people today who would invest so much money in restoring a Panther just to get original parts to restore other Panthers. The main suspect in this is Kevin Whitcroft from the United Kingdom, who is the president of the Whitcroft Collection. In fact, I'm friends with Kevin on Facebook, and we talk from time to time. I haven't talked to him about any of this yet, and I'm not saying it's him. Okay? I just think Kevin is the guy who has it. This kind of profile of approaching the city administrators directly to get what he wants, man, which is the engine and transmission from the Panther, right? Since he's really restoring the Panther, not just one, but I believe 2 Panthers, to working condition. And the gearboxes, especially the transmissions from the Panthers, are extremely rare parts, really extremely rare. So for him to get a complete transmission and a complete engine in exchange for restoring a historic piece that was being displayed in an inappropriate way, right? It's definitely worth it. And Kevin he recently announced that he received a donation from an American donor who prefers to remain anonymous of $500,000. He got $500,000 from the guy. So things might be working out precisely because of that, okay? Look at the breech of the Panther's 75mm gun. It's still there. Everything is still intact inside this vehicle. Some small parts were really stolen over the decades, but the vehicle remains surprisingly intact. So even though I can't tell you for sure that it was Kevin Whitcroft who financed and is financing this restoration here, and who is going to take this engine and this transmission away, we'll keep following up here and I'll keep you informed about this case of Manet's Panther, okay? And of course, for those of us who like the subject and travel there, right, to Europe, to be able to see exactly the battlefields, right? The most important places in vehicles like this, you want to see restored vehicles, right? Seeing the vehicle in this condition it was here is a bit sad. So seeing a restored vehicle will be much more interesting indeed. So my congratulations to everyone involved. To Kevin, whether he's involved or not, I don't know, but we'll follow along with great interest, for sure. And once again, if you want to know more military history in detail, hey, buy my book, The Atom as a Weapon here. If you want it autographed, send your email here to War Room and your zip code so I can calculate the shipping.